Welcome back to the Manuel Podcast. My name is FBJ. Today we continue QuaranThings. This is part 3. In this episode, we look at the struggles of working or studying from home, fitness, and finally, missing the outside world. Let's start with working from home. We all know that working from home is a company initiative, and many have adjusted with this new type of working lifestyle. And there's actually pros and cons with this type of setup. We all know that working from home, we would eliminate the need to commute to the office, also avoiding heavy traffic along the way, and we are more comfortable because we're in our homes and less expenses going out and dressing up because most work from home setup don't require you to get dressed up in your office attire. You could actually work even in your pajamas. So with work from home, there's also the rise of freelance work where freelancers are now adjusting or actually getting more gigs because of this pandemic. Since there's a growing number of freelancers right now, there's also competition. Now, working from home can also be compared to studying at home since as of now, the Department of Education is pushing for distance learning, and one of the options for that is studying from home using the internet. However, we all know that in the current situation in the Philippines, the internet connection is kind of slow. Most of the people cannot afford to buy gadgets like laptops or smartphones so they could get connected to the internet because there's still a big number of Filipinos who cannot afford those things. What more if they need to have a stable internet connection, which as of now it's kind of unfair because for regular Filipinos they would get poor connection and you could only get service if you pay more. Now, studying from home is still the best way to keep our kids educated. However, looking at the problems right now, we really need to help a lot of people if we want to make it work. Because, like I mentioned, people cannot afford gadgets, they cannot afford their internet or laptops, and having those is actually just a basic necessity in performing the distance learning. Now, another concept or another thing that we could discuss regarding working from home or studying at home is the opportunity of taking certifications online. There's actually a lot of free online courses right now, and I'm actually taking some of them in my free time. I actually got some certifications in the past weeks, and one thing that we could probably consider since we have more time now, this could actually give us more skills. Since most of us have graduated or probably stopped schooling, we haven't got an opportunity to learn. This situation that we're in opened up that door so we could actually consider trying to learn a new skill or a new talent, and that's where online certifications come in. There's a lot of websites. I don't have the list right now. Probably I'll post it in my blog. But you can actually just search it online. And from there, you can actually complete those courses in your free time until you get your certification. Looking back at the situation from work from home, we can see that there are a lot of struggles. There's a lot of problems. But there's also that opportunity that we could apply in the future and probably improve since we're already in this predicament. And the best thing that we could do right now is try to adjust, try to adapt to what would be the best move for us to survive. Because as of now, the main focus of humanity is to survive this pandemic. And hopefully, we could get through this so we could go back to our normal lives, which might take months or years. And as of now, working from home would be the best thing or the best setup that we have so we could still have our economy running, put food on the table, and put our kids to school. So let's just take a little break, and when we come back, let's talk about fitness. Hi, I'm PJ from Manual Blogs. I love to share knowledge and stories. That's why I tried out podcasting. And I found the best app for that. Anchor. First of all, Anchor is free. They also have all the creation tools you need to record your podcast right from your phone or computer. They will also distribute your podcast in many platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. They have everything you need to get started. Amazing, isn't it? So go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, welcome back to the Manual Podcast. This is QuaranThings Part 3, and we're gonna discuss about fitness. Yes, fitness. It's kinda ironic for me to discuss this, however, we're just gonna get through some of the factors that are related to fitness. I'm not saying that I'm a fit person because obviously I'm not, but let's talk about fitness in a wider sense, like how people are now adjusting to closed gyms and how are they doing their fitness routines at home. And finally, let's talk about diet. Okay, so as of now, gyms are still closed here in the Philippines because we haven't got to that point where gyms are allowed to open, despite some proposals that gyms can open under certain conditions. That's because gyms have a higher rate of infection in terms of social distancing, contamination, etc. And I had a gym membership last year, which actually is expired, or my contract ended a few months ago, and it's exactly when the pandemic hit. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, the good thing is I don't have to pay my gym membership. The bad thing is I don't have exercise, and that's where home exercise or the home fitness routine comes in. Many people have now resulted into doing their home fitness routine at home, of course, doing several routines. Many have done their routines at home. Probably they would just watch a YouTube video, a TikTok video, or they already have their routine set up and they just need to do that once or twice a day. If possible, some people actually have gym equipment at home. They have weights, they have jumping ropes, they have barbells or dumbbells, etc. So those people are actually lucky since they have those equipment. However, given that many of us don't have those luxuries, so people would just go ahead with home fitness routines. However, since like I mentioned in the first episode that people are now loving food, going to the gym, doing the home fitness routine is now left behind because people are just getting lazy because they're not motivated to go to a gym because there's no gym. And since there's no gym and they're close to the kitchen, so most likely they would choose food over fitness, just like me. And that's what's happening to a lot of us. And that's actually a problem in the long run because since people cannot go out, they cannot even go out to take a job. They cannot go out and do sports. Although some sports right now are being allowed, the big sports like basketball, volleyball, swimming are still not allowed because of the high infection rate. And we have to wait until we have a vaccine or probably an approved guideline so we can actually do the sport without getting infected. And one of the sports that were allowed was badminton. I checked on the guidelines for badminton and I saw that it's kind of a little bit weird, but it seems okay because it's made with the guidance of the experts and I cannot argue with that. However, we do miss that we are able to play them freely without doing this or doing that. But since this is a different situation, we have to do that just to continue on doing our sport. Another sport that was allowed is skateboarding. Actually pretty surprising because skateboarding is a non-contact sport. So hopefully in the coming days or weeks, more sports can be allowed now to operate so people can get active again and get fit. Now, let's talk about diet. Of course, again, I am not a health expert, but I'm just laying the facts of what's going on right now, since people are now eating more and there is also growing concern of people getting obese or overweight. People are also considering their diet because, of course, if you're just in your house, you would see the difference in the mirror compared to the past months when we were free and active. And that actually drove people to change their diet. As of now, there's no new diet fad or trend that is going around. However, there are a lot of tips or quote-unquote gurus who are proposing their own diets so people can slim down. And in my opinion, diets should actually be personal because we have to adjust it to how active we are, what our preferences, and how much time can we invest or effort we could invest in doing those diets, because diet practically means what we eat and people have a lot of preferences. That's where the problem sits in, because if we propose a certain diet but that's not applicable or that's not best for that specific person, that diet will fail. And diets should actually be made with the supervision of a nutritionist or a doctor, so they can be assured that what they're doing is still healthy, it's within their preference range, and it will be healthy in the short and long term. Whatever diet is out there right now, I'm not judging you. There's a lot of them. Maybe we could try to experiment so we could know what works for us best, and if we apply that in our lifestyle, eventually we'll find that specific diet that works, and hopefully it will give us the body that we need. After this pandemic, we could still have those body goals. And since we don't have a summer vacation right now, it's probably best that we could start doing our diets right now so we can prepare for next year, if in case this pandemic is over. I'd just like to ask, what's your preferred diet? And do you have a suggested diet that I could try? Let me know in the comments so I could consider that and give it a try. Okay, let's just take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about the outside world. Okay, welcome back to the Manuel Podcast. I'm MPJ, and this is QuaranThings Part 3. And for this last segment, we'll talk about the outside world. We're missing the outside world so much because we're stuck in our homes. We're unable to travel because as of now, there's probably no country have opened their borders for tourists because it's a pandemic. There's still no vaccine as of this recording. Although some countries have already been successful in suppressing the virus, and some of them have been COVID-free, and now they're considering opening up several establishments to further save their economy. As of now, the question is, where can we go? And with almost all tourist sites closed right now, it's hard to tell. But one thing is for sure, that there's flattening of the curve, or the virus has stopped spreading in a particular country. Once the contamination has been stopped, and let's say we have a vaccine already, the tourism sector is considering opening up to tourists again, but they would only open for local tourists, just like the case of Boracay Island, wherein they have been COVID-free for quite some time. However, there was a rogue case, and I think they have controlled the situation, and they actually have considered opening up Boracay for local tourists, which is within the region or within the province of Aklan. The opening of Boracay was not really that big because there's still some health protocols that were followed, like if you want to swim, there's a time limit or schedule, and contact tracing procedure, and they would only allow if it's okay to swim, which most of the time it's not. So what would open soon? Well, when the ECQ started, almost everything was closed. The only thing that were open for business were the supermarkets, the drugstores, and some parts of the market. When it eased up and we went to GCQ or MECQ or MGCQ, many businesses have reopened, just like restaurants, fast food, other services in malls. But there's still a lot of businesses that are not allowed. And I think the mall would be the only thing that we consider as something outside. So what will happen now with tourism? I know there's a big blow on the tourism industry because of this pandemic. However, the Department of Tourism does say that they are now using resorts and hotels as isolation areas for probable or infected person, so they could quarantine them for a specific time. However, after that, what would happen to the hotel? Well, as of now, it's still unclear. However, there are proposals that little by little these resorts and hotels would open up. However, they have to follow strict guidelines so they could keep the infections low or zero and still maintain, or probably they would instill those guidelines so they could still operate at a much smaller capacity. And aside from the resorts and hotels, of course, there are people who are dependent on the tourism industry in the sides, like those who are selling souvenirs, tourist guides, of course, tour operators, the buses, the boats, of course, the planes that go to specific places. Those are also affected, and there is a big adjustment that they need to do so they could still survive. Actually, the airline industry were greatly affected because of the pandemic, since they have to cut a lot of flights and they only do sweeper flights or essential flights so they could transport people and bring them back to their home provinces, etc. So what's happening with tourism right now? I see that people are posting their throwback pictures or videos of their travels from last year or probably earlier this year, and it actually brings nostalgia. There's one concept of the Department of Tourism that I like. For now, let's just all dream, and someday we will come back to those places. It's actually reassuring that this too shall pass, and eventually we could go back to those places, or we could go to those places that we want and enjoy them to the fullest. So finally, in regards to tourism, probably the best or the optimistic view of tourism here in the Philippines and abroad can be summarized with the DOT's slogan right now, wherein we will wake up eventually and we'll be in those places. That this is all just a dream, and we'll wake up one day and we'll be able to visit those places again. So that actually gives us hope that one day, once this all is over, we could slowly and eventually go back to our normal lives and enjoy life to the fullest again. But for now, we just have to wait, and we have to survive and keep our hopes up that everything will be okay again. And that's it for our QuaranTalks Part 3. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day. Stay tuned for more updates, and don't also forget to follow me on my social media at FBJJR on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Again, I thank you once again for listening. This has been the Manual Podcast. You have a great day. Bye-bye.